Welcome back to Mom and Mind. I'm your host, Dr. Kat. On our episode today, we are hearing from Jenn Holmes. She is a wife and mother and is the Mississippi State Lead Coordinator for Postpartum Support International. Jenn is sharing with us her debilitating experience with intrusive thoughts within days of the birth of her son. She did not know what was going on and became very frightened by her thoughts. And as Jenn says in our conversation, she shares some of the graphic nature of her thoughts and also that this is real life for people who have intense intrusive thoughts. What is important to note is that for those people who are experiencing anxiety or having intense intrusive thoughts themselves, it can be really hard to hear some of the graphic nature of some of her thoughts. So I want to invite you to just kind of take a self assessment and decide if you need to either skip through some of those parts or come back at another time and listen when you feel ready. Another really important point that Jenn brings in is that when she was going through these intrusive thoughts in the very beginning, she thought she might be experiencing postpartum psychosis because her only experience hearing these intense postpartum things was related to the media representations of postpartum psychosis mothers who had either harmed themselves or their children. There is a wide range of postpartum psychosis experience, and unfortunately, the media portrayal is often incorrect or sensationalized or even inhumane. So, I would like to offer that if you want to learn more about postpartum psychosis, please listen to episode 258 with Michelle Davidson. And for people who are experiencing intrusive thoughts and want to learn more about them or learn from a clinical perspective how postpartum OCD and intrusive thoughts in particular show up for people, please listen to episode 205 of the Mom and Mind podcast, Destigmatizing Intrusive Thoughts with Dr. Nicole Fairbrother. In order to make sure that other people know that they are not alone, and the nature of intrusive thoughts and how difficult they can be really does make people feel alone. It makes them feel like they're losing their mind, or it might make them even afraid of their own thoughts. But the more we talk about it, the more we understand, the more you know that help is available, the less likely you will have to suffer. Let's hear from Jenn. Welcome, Jenn. Thank you for being here with us.
Thank you for having me.
Um, I am grateful that you're coming on to share your story, and I imagine, and can safely say, I know you know that the stories like yours are important to hear, and really to help people understand what's actually happening for people and reduce the stigma and help people get the help that they need. And so I'm grateful that you're coming on to share.
Well, I'm thankful that you have a platform that I can actually share and that I used during my postpartum. So it helped me, and now I just want to help other moms.
Oh, I love that. Cool. I'm so glad it was helpful. And yes, I know that you sharing your story will be helpful for other folks too. Um, so given that, yeah, just start wherever you'd like to start with your own story.
Okay, great. Thank you. I like to kind of start during my pregnancy, um, because it was the most perfect pregnancy, really. There were no like complications. Um, I found out I was pregnant like the day of my missed period, so everything was fine. We were planning on it, so it was a planned pregnancy um, with my husband. And throughout the whole first trimester, I didn't get sick once. The second trimester was perfect. I was active, I was working out, we were here in Mississippi, I was on my kayak, I was doing yard work, like everything was fine. I would say the only little hiccup um, but everything turned out to be fine. But my baby was breech. So during the 20-week ultrasound, we did see that he was still head up, but the ultrasound technician and my OB said that like he has time to go head down before, I give birth. So I would say that was like the first time that I felt like a little anxious about like, oh, what ifs and all that stuff. Is he going to be okay? What's going to happen? Um, but other than that, everything was fine. Like I didn't have any traumatic birth, really nothing during my pregnancy happened that would cause my postpartum to be so catastrophic. So it was just like out of the blue, nowhere. But Noah was born on April 28th. I did have a C-section, but everything was great with that C-section. Everything was relaxed. My OB played like classical music. Like
Mm-hmm.
she was super calm, and she was also very confident. So her confidence made me feel calm. My husband was there. My dad and my stepmom, I'm from Pennsylvania, so they still live in Pennsylvania. They were flying on down. So everything was fine.
Mm-hmm.
My baby was 8 pounds, 10 ounces,
Mm-hmm.
and he was the most perfect baby ever.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so really I thought like I nailed this. Like I nailed this pregnancy. This postpartum is going to be fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And I also read some books. What do you expect when you're expecting? Also, there's like another book that I got off of Amazon. So I felt really prepared. I felt really confident and I felt super happy
Mm-hmm.
after Noah was born. Um, but everything that happened, I would say after like 2, 3 days postpartum, completely blindsided me. I was
Mm-hmm.
so unprepared for postpartum. Um, and I didn't know it. I thought I knew everything.
Mm-hmm.
I took some online classes. I knew about breastfeeding, or I just knew as much as I could about breastfeeding. So, yeah, what happened during my postpartum was so scary to me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, And like I said, when I was reading books about it, what I experienced was never in those books.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess I can start with I was in the hospital with Noah. So I had him on a Wednesday and it was a Friday morning. Like that's when my whole postpartum journey really began. Um, I remember I was getting discharged that morning. It was a super sunny day. We had the curtains open, and my husband went down to grab some breakfast to bring back up. And he asked me if I wanted to hold Noah, my baby. And I was like, yeah, of course I want to hold him. So I was in the hospital bed and I was holding Noah. And, he was swaddled. And I put the swaddle down a little bit and I was rubbing his arm because everything was just so chunky. Everything was just so squishy. It was, oh my gosh, he was so sweet. Still is, but he's like a little tiny dude right now. But when he was a baby, he was chunky. All right, so I was holding him and it was like perfect bliss. And I remember I just started to pray. I was like, Dear Lord, we're taking Noah home. Please watch off after Noah. Please watch after me. Please let me know like what to do, when I need to do it. And that was when I had my very first. It was a it was an image in my head that just popped out of nowhere. And it was me holding him and then just tossing him onto the hospital floor, and his head was bouncing.
Mm.
And
That's an intense first intrusive thought.
yeah, 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 it was, that's what totally started my whole downfall.
Mm.
Um, because I did not know what that meant. And I
Mm.
remember feeling panicked.
Right.
My neck started to get really hot. My heart started to beat faster. Like I just felt like, oh my God. And I didn't know what was going on.
Right.
I tried to forget about it, like not really like think about it. Like I tried to not think about it, which made everything worse. But then nurses come in, my husband came back with breakfast. Um, and we were just getting packed up, getting Noah ready to take him home, and doing my discharge, and everything was fine from that point on. And I remember doing the postpartum depression test. What
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It was stupid, but it didn't help. it didn't
Uh-huh.
really help with what I was going through, but I do remember I checked, I said yes to like everything. Everything's fine. No, I don't have any like, I don't know. I didn't want to harm myself, so I was like, no, no, no. The only thing that kind of like threw a red flag was the nurse asked, do I put pressure on myself when I don't need to put pressure or something? It was like one of those questions.
Mm-hmm.
And I just said yes to that because I remember feeling really pressured to breastfeed, and I felt pressured when you know how the babies are born at a heavier weight and then they kind of like lose
Mm-hmm.
weight during
Mm-hmm.
their hospital stay. Um, I Noah wasn't 8 pounds 10 ounces when we left. He was a lot lighter than that, and I remember putting pressure on me, like, oh my gosh, I should have breastfed every hour. I should have done this. I should have done that. So that was the only red flag that really like popped up for the nurse, and she told my husband to keep an eye on me. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, he doesn't need to keep an eye on me. I'm fine. Like everything is fine. I'm going to be the best. No, no. So then we all got ready. We all went home. And it just happened so perfectly that we got home like 5 minutes before my dad and my stepmom arrived. And we introduced our baby to our dog and our cats, and everything was so peaceful. And that night was just really relaxed. And my stepmom was preparing dinner, and they asked if I wanted to take a nap like on the recliner while she was preparing dinner. And I was like, you know what? I would love to. So I just got done nursing Noah. I leaned back the recliner. My husband put a blanket on me, like he kind of tucked me in, everything. Like I had my family all around me. Noah was safe. And then I had this extremely scary when I was like, I had my eyes closed and I was just like in the most relaxed state ever. I had this intrusive thought pop up of me killing Noah with a hammer. And
Oh.
that may be a bit graphic. Yeah. That's really graphic, but that was the second intrusive thought that I had. And so it began, this spiral. I remember my eyes, I just like opened wide. I had no idea what was happening. I got so hot. I took the blanket off of me. I leaned up in the recliner and I was like, what the heck? Like I thought that I had psychosis. I thought, okay, I was like, this is what happens in the news.
Mm.
And you know, when you hear those really awful
Yeah.
stories of moms with postpartum psychosis, that's usually the mom harming the baby or harming herself. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, so I was like, this is what I've heard about psychosis. It's psychosis. And I was like, but I thought it was rare. And I never read about it in my books. I only read about postpartum depression. So I had no idea. So I go into the bathroom and I kind of had this moment of, I can't let it happen. And I can't let this go on any further because what if I do actually, enter full on like psychosis? Am I going to harm my baby? So that's when I made the split decision of actually trying to kill myself, which was
Oh. So
um
at this point, nobody knows what's going on?
nope.
Uh-huh.
No, just me.
So this is day 3?
Like, let me think. Two Wednesday I had him, Friday I went home. This was Friday evening.
Wow. So that is super fast. For
Yeah.
you to feel like one way and then all of a sudden feel another way and then try and wrap your
Mhm.
head around what
Yeah.
in the what is happening.
Mhm.
Yeah.
It was
Yeah.
terrible.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it did. It happened so fast. I mean, yeah, I had a perfect pregnancy, but I also knew that I had anxiety. Um, but everything was fine during my pregnancy. So I thought, okay, I'm gonna be fine. Like when I talked to my husband about this, he's probably sick of hearing me for the past 2 years. I'm like talking about, well, wow, I should have done this, I should have done that. What I came to the conclusion of is I felt like I would be fine with postpartum because I feel like I've already been through depression. Like, my parents got divorced when I was in high school, so I had like a really low spot, but I made it out. Like, I was like, okay, if I get depressed or sad, like, I make it out. And during college, I went for pre-vet. So there was a lot of times when I was anxious, but I was able to cope. I got active, I kayaked, like, I felt like, okay, well, I'll make it out.
Mm.
But to have an intrusive thought, a scary, scary thought of harming your newborn, I've never experienced that before. So
Mm-hmm.
therefore, it scared the crap out of me. And I didn't even know what an intrusive thought was.
Right.
That's kind of the kicker. So I remember I was in the bathroom and I saw the razor, just my shaving razor, and I was like, okay, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm just gonna go into the bathtub. Noah will live. Everything will be fine with Noah. But the thing that kind of slowed me down is, wait, he has to eat every 2 hours, and I was breastfeeding.
Mm-hmm.
And I never looked into formula. I never bought formula. So how is he going to eat if I'm not here? So that pause that I was thinking, my husband knocked on the door and was like, "Hey, are you okay?" Because he usually helped me since I had a C-section and the recovery and stuff. He usually helped me like in the bathroom. So he was wondering like, "Hey, why are you there alone?"
Yeah.
And that's when I lost it. And I was like, Alex, no, no. I was like, I am not okay. I said, I don't know what's happening. I remember telling him, I don't know what's happening to me. I don't know what's going on. He's like, what are you talking about? And I said, I just had this scary thought. And I said, I promise. I was crying. I was like, I would never, ever hurt Noah. And he's like, I know you won't. And I said, I promise I won't hurt him. So I was hysterical and I was hugging him and I told him about the scary thought. And he says, he's so calm. Oh my gosh, if you would meet him, he is the opposite of me. He's like, it's probably your hormones. He's like, we're going to talk to your doctor. We'll call your doctor. So we called my OB. When was that? This was Friday. So we called and got an appointment. They actually didn't see me. They got an appointment for Monday morning at like 9 a.m. when they opened. He's like, can you make it through the weekend? And I was like, I mean, I guess so, but we didn't tell my dad or my stepmom
Mm.
um at that point. So that was Friday evening. My dad, I didn't eat anything. I didn't eat, I didn't drink. I couldn't even take my Tylenol. Like the whole night was just a blur. But everybody went to bed. And then the next morning, oh, well, this happened throughout the whole night. So it was just like intrusive thought after another, after another. I
Mm.
couldn't sleep.
Mm.
Every time I seemed to close my eyes, one would like pop into my head. It was an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
So then the next morning is when I told my dad that I'm having these nightmares, and he was like, "Well, they're just nightmares. It's okay." And I was like, "I don't know about that."
Mm. Mm-hmm.
So we all kind of like talked. I talked to my stepmom. Talked to my dad. I mean, my husband. He was up all night. Like we didn't get any sleep. Um, and they never heard of intrusive thoughts, but I got into my phone and I remember searching postpartum vivid thoughts because that's really what they were. They were so vivid. I mean,
Mm.
I hated it.
Mm-hmm.
And this, I don't even know what the website is called, but it's talked about intrusive thoughts. And I was like, intrusive thoughts, like I was sounding it out, almost like I was like learning it for the very first time. And I
Yeah,
was like,
sure.
intrusive thoughts. And I opened up the article and it said about postpartum depression, intrusive thoughts, and it gave examples of mom having intrusive thoughts of stabbing her baby, drowning her baby, even like sexual intrusive thoughts. And I was like, that's it. I was like, I'm having intrusive thoughts. I guess
Mm.
it's not psychosis. Like, I was like, okay. But I say okay, like I was relieved. I still wasn't relieved. I
Oh,
still was a
right, right, right.
complete and utter mess. And I remember taking my phone to my dad. So my dad, this is his first grandbaby. He is in seventh heaven. Nothing can phase him. But
Mm-hmm.
when I gave him the cell phone and he was reading like stabbing your baby, intrusive thoughts of drowning your baby. He's like, oh, oh. And he like hands the phone back to me. He's like, I don't know about that. And so I was like, okay, like this is what's happening. And I don't know, just the weekend, I don't know. I would say it was a blur, but I still remember it. It just happened so slowly. Um, but we all kind of just tried to work through it. My stepmom was still making meals. She was helping with laundry. She was helping with Noah. She was helping my husband. Like everything was we just tried to enjoy the time, even though I was not enjoying it at all.
Right.
Um, but then my friend messaged me and she asked how I was doing. And I was like, how am I doing? I was like,
Hmm.
I am a mess. I was like, I didn't tell her about intrusive thoughts because I didn't want people to know. I was like humiliated. But I remember saying that I feel afraid, and I said I feel like something bad is going to happen to Noah. That's what I told her. And she said, "Do you want to talk to my friend? It's a family friend." And I said, "No, like no, I don't want to talk to anybody." And she said, "Well, she had these thoughts of murdering her babies." And I was like, "Oh gosh. Whoa, why'd she do that?" Like I was playing it off like I had no idea.
Mm.
And I was like, well, what's her name? Because I was totally going to reach out to her. Like I
Hmm.
needed somebody to talk to. And she said, well, I'll have her message you. And the mom messaged me like that evening and she
Mm.
introduced herself and she said, I had something called postpartum OCD. And she said that she had intrusive thoughts of harming her kids.
Hmm.
And I was like, because I thought I was like all alone. I was like, you really did. I was like, you had, and I checked her Facebook and she had 3 kids. And I was like, you went through this 3 times? I was like,
Mm.
this is crazy. But she now runs this support group up in Pennsylvania
Mm.
where she helps moms because she went through it.
Hmm.
And she was able to give me some resources just to read before I saw my OB.
Great.
And she actually said, it's how you react to the thoughts is kind of like how you're going to get through this. Because if you're panicking and trying to
Mhm.
push them away, which is exactly what I was doing, I was
Sure.
trying to think of anything under the sun if I didn't have to think about a scary, intrusive thought.
Hmm.
She says, just let them come and let them go. And she actually taught me name it to tame it kind of
Hmm.
thing.
Hmm.
So it was just like, that's an intrusive thought. I mean, it happened every 5 seconds, but I was just trying to do that. And it seemed to keep me okay.
Hmm. Hmm. Every 5 seconds, or that is a frequent amount of having to try and cope with. It's like constantly being hit by a wave, um,
Right.
just over and over and over again, and trying to like regain your footing, and then kind of being.
Mhm.
It's a lot of um, what's the word I want to use? Like overstimulation constantly.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't do anything. They were just a nightmare. And I remember at night, I would try to count sheep, try to think of just happy things. And I remember thinking, okay, I feel most at peace when I'm mowing, which sounds so weird, but I love to mow our yard. I
Hmm.
absolutely love it. We have a zero turn. So I remember, okay, I'm on the lawnmower and I was just trying to calm myself down. I was like, okay, well, that, like, never mind that. Like, nothing, absolutely nothing helped me at all.
So, like basically, every just daily task you were doing, or a lot of the daily tasks you were doing, somehow, the intrusive thoughts included him, but in a really catastrophic way. The
Every
eating,
single one.
mowing the lawn, just normal, just trying to
Oh,
hold him.
everything.
Yeah.
Oh, right. I marked down every time I'd breastfeed him. And I mean, this may be graphic, but it's real life. And I used a pen on a notepad because I didn't download any apps yet. to track my breastfeeding. So I'd write it on a piece of paper.
Mhm.
But that pen, I had an intrusive thought of using that pen as a weapon.
Mm.
So I stopped using the pen. I
Mhm.
put the pen and the notepad away, or I gave it to my husband and I said, "Can you write down 9:30 a.m. is when I fed him last?" So
Right.
everything.
Right. So like just what you're describing right now is so real that and like and common with intrusive thoughts and OCD is like the thing that scares you the most, you start to avoid doing because you don't want that thing to happen. Like you are
No,
literally trying to
right.
avoid all of the thoughts doing any kind of harm to your child or to your, like, um, and it like the intensity for you was, I mean, this is still very soon postpartum, right? Um,
This was 3 or 4 days postpartum. Yeah.
um, right. So and how long did that intensity last? Like where it was, this is still before you went to see the doctor?
Yes.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Yes. It lasted, okay, so the intensity, I would say lasted about a week, a week or two.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I like how you, and I like talking to you about this because you understand that, yes, I had those intrusive thoughts, but I didn't want to do it. That
Not
was
at
the
all, right?
absolutely last thing ever. Never, ever would do that. And I've talked to a couple moms that don't understand intrusive thoughts. They don't understand OCD. And I remember telling this one mom that I met just through Facebook how I had like intrusive thoughts of harming. And she was trying to um, share her story. And she's like, "Yeah, girl, I remember getting so mad at my baby. I said that I was just going to throw him against the wall." And I was like, "We're not talking about the same thing here." I was like, this happened when I was the most calm. These thoughts, like, I didn't want to do it. I was never mad. I still have never been mad at him. Like, I
Hmm.
don't
Hmm.
get it. It wasn't out of anger, if that
Right.
makes sense.
No, absolutely. And it's such an important distinction. And because so many people misunderstand
Yeah.
what happens for people, they make assumptions about like the mom who's experiencing it or the dad or the parent, whoever's experiencing it,
Right.
that there's some sort of intent behind it or that there's some sort
Mhm.
of um uh, yeah, other stuff going on or that they're an angry person or whatever, but
Yep.
it is it is like you're so um, like you're so worried about this vulnerable baby, this that
Yes.
the worry, it's not even a conscious worry all the time, but like it turns into this like fear of the worst thing happening um in that moment.
Mhm.
And it sounds like for you, like that was moment to moment. Like whatever was in front of you was like incorporated him into the worst possible thing that could happen. And
Yes.
you absolutely didn't want that to happen.
No way. No way. And I don't even remember ever having intrusive thoughts like that before baby.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like I do remember, if it's snowy, because I'm from Pennsylvania, so if the roads are snowy, I kind of picture like, what if I slip on black ice and my car like spins in a circle? Like that didn't really fluster me.
Mm-hmm.
It made me drive slower, like it made me like be more alert. But when I was having these like visions and intrusive thoughts of like harm, I was like, we've got to stop this like ASAP. Like I don't even know what my
Mm-hmm.
brain is doing. I remember doing a podcast and saying like it's like they handed me my baby and a brand new brain. Like it
Mm-hmm.
was not my brain. Like
Mm-hmm.
it was total chaos that whole
Mm-hmm.
entire weekend.
Mm-hmm. Constant worry. So, right, and the other
Constant.
thing you mentioned is that for whatever reason, like because of the intensity of what you were experiencing, you couldn't do like the normal functioning stuff like eating and sleeping even when you had a chance, and it was just like your brain was taken over. Um, uh,
Was
but you were,
Yeah.
I think, And now that I said that, taking over out loud, I also
Mhm.
just want to make a distinction that you were still present in there. It wasn't like you were,
Oh, yes.
because for people who do have a psychosis, I just didn't want the like
Right.
taking over to be misconstrued as a
Right.
psychosis type of taking over. I'm just talking
Right.
about like that it felt, you knew what was happening, but it felt out of control. Is that a better way to say it?
That's it. No, that's perfect. Oh, yeah, I was very aware. I was
Mhm.
very aware that I was in hell.
Uh-huh.
I was, yeah, very conscious. Yeah, I mean, I knew right from wrong, I
Mhm.
guess we could say. Like, I knew that those were super scary, but nothing ever pushed me to actually doing it, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I avoided knives. I remember I would just, or even like today when everything is back to normal, I'll wash our knives. I don't put them in the dishwasher. I wash them and then I put them on the drying mat. But
Mhm.
like postpartum, I would wash it, I would grab a towel really fast, dry it, stick it away, don't see it. Like I could
Mhm.
not have them out on the counter.
Mhm.
Right now they're out on the counter drying. But
Right, right.
postpartum, I was like, heck no, I can't do that.
Right. So you're trying to take away anything that could contribute to an intrusive thought from like, you know, just your
Anything.
just your sight. Yeah.
Right, right. Yes. Yes, it was awful. Um, oh, so Monday is when I saw my OBGYN.
Mhm.
And um, so my husband came, my dad came, my stepmom came. We had no one in the car seat. Like it was a whole thing. But it was during COVID actually, so they all had to stay in the car. But my husband came in with me. So it's just me and Alex. And all the nurses, the nurse that did my blood pressure, checked my weight, she asked like, what's going on? Why do you need to see a doctor? And I said, oh, just hormones. Like I didn't want to tell anybody
Mhm.
because I didn't want them to think that I didn't want my baby to be taken away. I
Right.
remember even messaging that to the mom that was helping me. I was like, I need help. I need to get better. I don't know what to do. I don't know what to say because I don't want them to take Noah. Um, because I'm not going to harm him.
Mhm.
I mean, my biggest fear was sleepwalking and harming him. Like I was like, what if I sleepwalk and do this? Um, Kind of like how movies portray, like you sleepwalk and you can like make a whole meal and in your sleep and then go back to bed. Like
Right,
I
right.
thought that that was going to happen, but no, it doesn't. It doesn't happen. So anywho, I saw my OB and she's like, "How are you?" And I was like, I am not doing good. And I asked her, I said, can I take my mask off so you can like see my face so you can like feel my emotions? And she's like, yeah, we can take our masks off because of COVID.
Right, right.
And I said, I am having these things called intrusive thoughts. And I was like, do you know what intrusive thoughts are? And I even had the article up for her to read in case she didn't know, but she's like, yes, I know what intrusive thoughts are. I was
Mhm.
like, you do? I was like, okay, well, I'm having them. I said, they're so scary. I don't know what to do. And I was just crying. I mean, from then on out, I was
Yeah.
just crying the whole time. And I was
Yeah.
like, she's like, well, it's your anxiety. And I said, but why are they so bloody? And she was like, tell me more. And I gave her some examples. And she got down beside me and like she put her hands, I don't know, I'm on my knees or something. And she's like, you have severe postpartum depression. And I was like, why? She's like, I don't know why. She's like, but you had anxiety in your past. So if you have things before, then they may, erupt now. And it sure did. She's like, we need to do something about it. And I said, okay, but can you give me like, I asked her for hormonal creams. I don't know where that came from. I was like, can you just give me lotions and like things to put on like magnesium? Can you just, because I didn't want to take any medicine
Mhm.
because my brain was already so messed up. I did not want to add like a chemical that was going to just make me, you know, shoot myself. Like I was just like, I'm so delicate right now. Like I do not want anything drastic. She's like, I'm going to prescribe you an SSRI. I said, what the heck is an SSRI? I was like,
Mhm.
I was just so confused and I've never heard of an SSRI.
Mhm.
Like I am 28 And I've never heard of that. I've heard of an antidepressant. I just didn't know what like
Right, right.
it just wasn't. I've never been on anything before. She's like, it's just, what'd she say? Selective serotonin or whatever. And she prescribed me something called Celexa. Well, I'd never heard of Celexa before either. And she said, I want you to try. We're going to start at a low dose. I want you to start taking this tonight. I'm going to call you on Wednesday because it was Monday. She said, I'm going to call you on Wednesday. She said, I also want you to see a psychiatrist. And I was like, oh my God, you think I'm crazy? And I was just crying again.
Yeah.
It was just like the worst. She's like, no. She's like, you just have severe postpartum depression. She never brought up OCD. Severe postpartum depression. And if the medicine doesn't work, I think our next step is inpatient. And I was like, inpatient? I can't do inpatient. I'm breastfeeding. I need to be with my baby. Because the thing is, I wanted to be with Noah.
Yeah.
I wanted to be home. I just wanted those scary thoughts to stop.
Yes.
Um,
Oh, I like,
but
yes, that is so important right there. Right. You
no,
want to be with
I
him.
wanted him.
Yeah, you just want the
Yeah,
scary thoughts to stop. Yes. Okay.
yeah. No, I wanted him. I held him.
Hmm.
Um, I would go outside with him. Yeah, I had him in like the little baby thing. Um, yeah, I wanted a baby. I've wanted a baby ever since, I don't know, forever. I've always wanted to be a mom. Um, I just didn't know what the heck my postpartum is going to be like. Heck, I would have waited 10 years, 10 more years
Hmm.
to ever go through this. All right, so luckily, and I know not everybody is like this, but that medicine helped me. And it seemed to sort of close the door to those intrusive thoughts. Along with me naming and taming, I would say that's just an intrusive thought. It can leave whenever it wants to. So, with kind of using that type of like therapy along with the medicine, I was starting to actually like see a little bit of sunshine. So,
How
it was
how long did it take for you to feel some benefit from medication and from naming stuff?
okay. So, let me think. I I think I saw her like May because I had Noah April 28th. I saw her like the beginning of May. Um, June. I mean, it did take a couple weeks,
Mm-hmm.
and I mean, I still did cry every single day,
Mm-hmm.
but I say it did take about two to 3 weeks to actually eat food. No, like I was eating a little bit, but it took about 2, 3 weeks to actually feel like I still had my old brain inside,
Mm-hmm.
if
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense.
Oh, right, right, yeah.
Okay.
Um, right. So that's a really intense 2, 3 weeks or 4 weeks or whatever it was by the time you started feeling some relief from it.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I remember taking him to his appointments and stuff and just feeling like super scared. And I knew that I was having those scary thoughts, but I didn't want the pediatrician to know. And I remember just like dressing us up in like mommy and me matching outfits, like nothing's going on here. Like I am fine. My postpartum's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Look, my baby is dressed and matching me. Like on the outside, I was portraying like everything was perfect. But yeah, I would say about 2 to 3 weeks after I started the medicine, um, that I started to actually feel like myself again.
Yeah, that's just going back to what you just said, that's also super important is that it could feel like there is just a storm happening inside and still put your kid in you in matching clothes. Um,
Oh yeah.
it doesn't always look on the outside a certain way at all. And oftentimes people are trying so hard to keep whatever they can keep together as a way to help like manage and feel some sense of control. Um, because internally it feels can feel really chaotic.
That's it. That's it exactly. And if I go through and look at my Facebook posts, best week of my life with my baby. No, it wasn't, Jen. It was the worst week of your life. You're a liar. Like, it was just so fake. But yeah, like I can post all I want, but yeah, it was a total fire inside my brain. Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, yeah, that is so real. Just, I mean, people do what they need to do to
Yeah.
cope and get through. And once you're out of the fire, like you were saying, you can look back and see maybe what you did to try and get through that time. But you listed one thing that I think is so super important is to have like the lifeline, if I can call it that, that you had with it was just that one person who knew
Yeah.
exactly what you were going through.
Yeah.
Is so incredibly important. I mean,
Oh
and it's
yeah.
not like, it
Yeah.
wasn't specifically like therapy. It was just somebody who got it and who had been through it, had some tools to offer to you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I wrote her a Christmas card that says, "I'm here this Christmas because of you."
Mm,
Like
that's
I
amazing.
owe her my life. Yeah. Just that I wasn't alone and she knew everything. And I was in that phase of the OCD, which I was diagnosed, postpartum OCD.
Hmm.
Um, Here in Mississippi, I found a therapist after 8 months. But yeah, she knew and she didn't react to when I would tell her about intrusive thoughts. She's like, yeah, or I would tell her something else. And she would say like, same book, different chapter,
Mm,
like it's
hmm.
okay, that kind of thing.
Hmm.
So yeah, having somebody like that was incredible, and I'm so glad that she reached out because yeah, it was life-saving.
Hmm. I'm really glad you had that. And like now you're like all that you've been through and healed from, you're doing much better now. Like how are things going?
Oh, wonderful.
Hmm.
Yeah, super good. I just started the weaning off my antidepressant. That was a personal choice. Um, I have seen my OCD psychologist. Like, there's actually a psychologist here in South Mississippi that specializes in OCD. Like, that's crazy. But he is able to like just give me the skills and the confidence
Mm,
that, when he just says it's just noise. When like a scary thought kind of happens, like it's just noise. And I'm weaning off my antidepressant slowly. Like I started at 20 milligrams. I'm still at 15 milligrams. Um, and I'm just trying to see like how I can do without it. Since,
mhm,
I didn't take it beforehand and I was fine. So I kind of just, it's okay if I need to like stay on it. Like I know that, but I just want to see how I can do without it.
mhm. Yeah.
Yeah. So now, yeah. And with Postpartum Support International, I signed up to do that because it took me 8 months to actually find this psychologist. And it was so hard to try to find a healthcare professional who actually knew about postpartum, knew about intrusive thoughts, knew about OCD, and also like harm intrusive thoughts. I
Mhm,
went through, I would say, four, one psychiatrist, one social worker, two therapists, and they had no idea what was going on.
mhm,
And I remember telling a psychiatrist, I was like, I'm going to open up to you. And I said, it's going to be kind of graphic. And I said, I'm having these really intrusive thoughts about my baby. And it was telehealth. So it was via Zoom. Well, whatever their platform was, it wasn't Zoom, but it was just like
mhm.
uh, through a computer. And I remember she leaned up to her monitor and she's like, what are the thoughts telling you to do? Like, I feel like she just didn't
Whoa.
understand anything. And my heart dropped. And I kind of knew, like, okay, I shut up from then on. I did
Mhm,
not tell her anything
mhm.
because I thought if I tell her anything, she's going to call CPS. She may take my baby. So
Oh.
it was horrific. Well, it could have been horrific. I just lied and I said, "Oh, the thoughts are saying." I remember telling her this. Hold on to him tight because he may fall. Like I just remember trying to bring up
Mhm,
something stupid where she would be like, "Oh, okay, okay." Because I don't. think that she knew what
Mhm.
I was talking about.
Right. Right. Oh, that sucks. It's just
Yeah.
so sad to me that they don't get the training that, that could be
Mm.
life-saving, or at least quality of life saving for people who are suffering. Um, because yeah, this distinction is super important between OCD, intrusive thoughts, and psychosis, and it gets mixed up a lot, way too much. Um, and it's important to know the difference because you got to make sure people get the help that they need for what they're going through. If it's psychosis, then that's a certain kind of help. And if it's postpartum OCD, then that's a certain kind of help. And none of it should be stigmatized. Um,
No, no. You're
ah,
so right about that. And I even like once I was better, like I was totally fine in July. So what was that? 2 months later. I went back through my what to expect when you're expecting. There's nothing in there. I went in the glossary. There's nothing in there about intrusive thoughts. There's nothing in there about OCD. It's literally just baby blues and depression. Like I thought, you know what, if I get baby blues, I have my family and I had the best support system and this stuff still happened to me. If I
mhm.
have depression, like, okay, like I'll be able to talk about it. But like I wish that some of these books kind of like talked about like other things.
Right. It's not just depression. And I think,
No.
thankfully, your OB knew enough to like get you some specific kind of um, support with medication,
Yeah.
but it wasn't depression. Mm.
No, it wasn't. No, she still kind of sweeps it under the rug. Like I talked to her back in October and she was like, "Yeah, you're postpartum depression." And I said, "Actually, I said the professionals are calling it OCD." And she's like, "Okay." Like I don't know, like I
Yeah.
just want her to listen a little bit. So, and then I told her about Postpartum Support International and she said, "What's that?" I was like,
Mm.
"What?"
Mhm.
So, I want her to know about that. So, I mean, cuz there's going to be moms after me
Mhm.
that are going through this
Mhm.
and I just want to help everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why it's so important to get the word out about that these things are real and they happen, what they actually are versus what they aren't, and that there's help available. And you by being the area coordinator, volunteer, you're volunteering your time now to make sure that people get to the resources that they need to get to. Um, because like now you're like somebody else's lifeline, which is so cool. I love that.
I do like it now. I do. Yeah, now it's now I can talk about it. And I've met so many moms through even just Instagram and I'll follow a certain I don't know, a certain Instagram that focus on postpartum. And if there's a post that they share about like intrusive thoughts, like I actually do. I used to go into the comments and share a little bit about mine. And I would wake up the next day with some not like a bunch of messages, but like one or two moms that say, "Hey, I saw your comment and
Mm,
I'm going through that right now."
so cool.
So yeah, and I'm not a therapist by all means. I went to school for pre-vet, not for humans. Um, but if I can help them a little bit, and tell them like, hey, it actually isn't psychosis. Like, please don't do anything drastic.
Mhm, mhm. Well, thank you, Jen, for coming on and sharing your story. And I know those intrusive thoughts are painful, even though you've had some time away from them. It sucks. It's just really, really hard. And uh, I know that other people, somebody who is going through this may or may not have a hard time hearing about specific intrusive thoughts. But to your point, like this is something that happens, and I know that even for people who do know that intrusive thoughts are a thing, sometimes they don't realize just how bad they can, how intense they can get, and how scary they can get. So yeah, I know we're all sort of trying to walk the line of like sharing what's real and also, understanding that some people might have a response to them. Um, It's just one of those things. We have to let, like, people decide, um, to, and then if they are hearing that they have similar thoughts than what you've had, then they know that it's a thing and that they can get help for it. So, anyways, I just thank you for your time and for sharing your story.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for this podcast. And yeah, there's definitely hope for it. So that's a good thing. Even though it's terrible in the moment, um, anybody can and hopefully will get through it.
Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. See ya.
Thank you again, Jen, for sharing your story. For those of you who identify with some of Jen's story or are concerned you might be experiencing something similar, please go to postpartum.net, Postpartum Support International, where you can find specialized support groups. You can also find therapist directory and to connect you with support so that you know that you're not alone and you know that it's not just you. It is so, so important that we know that and ideally prevent long term suffering. Please share this episode with somebody who could benefit from hearing about Jen's story and who needs to know that they are not alone. Thank you so much for being with us. Until next time.